At DePaco Credit Union, we value your health and happiness as much as your financial well-being. We encourage the volunteer spirit by providing DePaco employees with the tools and resources to help grow our communities and support the causes that matter to us. We believe that giving back not only strengthens the places we call home, but also enhances our overall well-being. Well-being is the key to a life worth loving. So when you think about yours, remember that DePaco can help you be well.
All things Hawkeyes, your all-access pass. From courtside to the postgame. Iowa's News Now Sports presents Eye on the Hawks. Sponsored by DePaco Community Credit Union and Pin Seekers.
You know, this was great for us. You know, just a good environment for us to be in, which was great for us to learn and to grow and to get better. And we will get shockingly better.
And we want to thank our friends at Spartan Mag for some use of their sound bites that they shot last night after Iowa's 71-52 loss to Michigan State. Welcome to the Eye on the Hawks podcast with Mike Howell and myself, Owen Sebring, and we've got Erica spinning on the ones and twos back in the director's booth. Mike, first off, let's just tee this off with Pin Seekers as we recap last night's loss to Michigan State. Was it what you expected? Did you have any projections that that game was going to turn out any differently, or did you think that was about how that game would turn out?
If you're an Iowa basketball fan, you know pretty well that, Iowa never plays that well usually in East Lansing. There are some exceptions to that rule. I know Fran won a few times there. But with a 5-point spread, we kind of got to see.
I'm a little surprised at that spread, honestly.
Me too. Michigan State has beat up Kentucky, UNC. They beat Arkansas in a close game. I was surprised when they were up by like 20 points when they got to that huge margin in the first half, and they kept doing it in the second half. But I do think after a day, let's not press the panic button. I want to see more. This is a team. Granted, there are some players, a good core that played last year and such, but there are still a lot of freshmen out there, or a handful of freshmen, I should say. I think it's going to be a different team in February and March than it is right now.
Was there any point in that game where you felt like Iowa had a chance to win?
The first 2 minutes. Okay. They jumped out to, a 7-2-3 lead.
Right.
And I was like, okay, maybe they can. Yeah, but the offense just wasn't there. Ben Sears probably played one of his worst games of his college career.
Certainly.
He missed 3 free throws in a row at one point. And the shooting, that is a concern to me. The shooting and the rebounding, when you're playing teams like Purdue, Michigan is on the schedule, Purdue twice, in lesser extent like Indiana, and who's else? Wisconsin's usually good. Yep. I just wonder if that's going to hamper them all season.
Yeah, and right now you're playing in a conference that, for my money, I think that the Big Ten is the best conference in America through the first month of the season. In my recent AP poll, I had 3 Big Ten teams ranked in the top 5. I had Michigan, Purdue, and Michigan State in there. I had them ranked number 5. They're number 7 right now in the overall polls. You have Illinois at 14. You have USC at 24. Then there's Iowa, UCLA, Nebraska. The Big Ten is so stacked this year. So you heard Coach Ben McCollum in that soundbite saying that this team is going to get shockingly better, and they are going to need to get a lot better if they're going to hang with some of these powerhouses in the Big Ten. Because, yes, we do have some teams that we can beat up on in the Big Ten. There are a lot of good teams, but there are a few pretty lousy teams in the Big Ten this season. But that team is going to need to win a few games that they shouldn't if they're going to want to get into the NCAA tournament, or at least get a decent enough seed that they can win a game in the tournament.
Yeah, and, I started this off with saying, don't hit the panic button. That's for the long-term season. Maybe hit the panic button for next week at Iowa State. That's another game where basing it off of the performance last night, if you go into Hilton Coliseum like that, you're probably going to get beat up like that again. But they're, a week of practice. Maryland's on the cusp. They're shockingly 171 in the net today. They were in the 200s yesterday. They must have played yesterday and got a win. So, that's a game you should win. But you have opportunities. I was just looking at it, and this changes. The net changes, throughout the season almost every day. So, but as of now, there's 10 games still left that are quad 1 opportunities, and that's going to change for the season. But as it stands right now, so you do have opportunities to get really good wins throughout the season. So like you said, there are chances, and you're going to have to win some of those games. Iowa is currently ranked 28th in the net, or in KenPom. I think they're 26th in the net. Okay. I don't have it pulled up right now. So the computer numbers like them a lot because they do blow out the teams that they're playing in the games that they've won usually. Yeah. Except, Ole Miss and Grand Canyon were a little closer. Mm-hmm. But like you said, a lot of opportunities. If you can get gelling in January and February, this should be, on the cusp of the tournament.
Right. Not much of a concern in terms of last night, but, man, that Michigan State team really is such a wagon. I mean, they just go so deep. They had, their full bench playing last night. And 52 points for Iowa does concern me a little bit. Bennett starts scoring 14 points. What did he have? 4 assists, 4 turnovers. Alvaro Fulgaris also had 3 turnovers, 11 as a team. Actually, Michigan State had 14 turnovers, but the rebounding wasn't anything special. Cam Maniau had 6 rebounds. The team as a whole got out-rebounded 37-18.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's not great.
To say the least.
It honestly is what we've seen a little bit out of the Hawkeyes in recent years. I feel like rebounding has been a struggle for this team in the last few seasons, and doesn't seem like that's going to be changing this year.
Yeah, when you look at the makeup of the roster, I know Ben and his coaching staff tried to get a bigger big than they have. Alvaro's kind of more of that stretch. He can shoot and do other things. But they do lack size compared to Michigan State and Purdue. Mm-hmm. So that's just something you expect when you play them. Yeah. But there were times when on the offensive boards, it just was kind of pull your hair out, last night. So,
well, after that 19-point loss, let's hear a little bit more from our folks over at Spartan Mag and what they had to hear from Ben McCollum.
The factor was Jeremy Fear's defense on Sturts.
I think it was good. I think our offense was probably a bigger factor. It was awful. To be honest, we didn't get to the next action. We sat there in a high ball screen, and that worked against Ole Miss, and that doesn't work against a good defense that's kind of loaded up. They do a great job of loading up, do a great job of preparation. Their bigs do a good job in coverage, and then they kind of shrink behind you, and so you can't just sit there in the same. You got to get to the next action. In spurts, the second half we started to get to the next action, but it wasn't consistent enough, and you can't just come down and run one play, like one ball screen. You got to get to the next, and we just didn't do a good job tonight of that.
I know right now we're not going to be overreacting to too much, as we've mentioned. First Big Ten game against one of the best, maybe 5, definitely 10 teams in the country right now. But at this point, it's the first week in December. After what are we at? 7-1 for the Hawkeyes. I think that's the record right now. What do you know about this team, do you feel like right now? What have you learned about them? What is, at this point, a realistic outlook for the rest of the season?
That's a good question. And, mind you, Michigan State won the Big Ten last year, right? I believe that's correct.
Man, is that true?
Yeah, I'm looking at the standings right now. I wanted to make sure I was on the. Yeah, Michigan State was 17-3. They were the first, and I just was shocked that Purdue was so low. They were tied for 4th, but they had a big injury late last year. They could win it this year. They're one of the best teams in the conference. They're 7th right now. In is that correct? 7th, I believe I saw in the country. They're a very good squad. Yeah. So I don't think you have to say season's over. According to KenPom, they have the projections throughout the season. He has Iowa, just from his computer numbers, going 21-10 this year. But it does have 2 6-game winning streaks against teams you probably have to beat. This is the first one coming against Western Michigan, Bucknell, UMass, and UCLA, Minnesota, Illinois. Although that Illinois game would be tough. Yeah. At home, even though those guys are good. They've got 2 losses, but it's against Alabama and then another top 15 team. So, yeah, way too early to make any huge proclamations about where this team goes. I still think it can make the tournament. And Ben last night, I think, said all the right things. This is a learning moment. Sometimes it's going to be a good thing for a team, especially a team that's undefeated and that is feeling themselves. They get thumped, and it can be a wake-up call. Hey, we're still working. We're still work in progress. Mm-hmm. So, maybe check back with me after the first 5 games of the Big Ten season, or even next week, and you can play at Iowa State.
Yeah, Iowa State's going to be interesting.
That's going to be a tough game.
That's another true test of what this team looks like. Do you like Ben McCollum's reaction after the game, kind of his personality. I mean, again, he is a different guy, a different personality than Fran McCaffrey. Do you like having a little bit of a jocular mood after the game? I mean, he's kind of joking about how awful the offense looked. I certainly have no problem with that. I like that out of a head coach. But do you like seeing that, or is that again sort of a breath of fresh air after the personality that Fran had for his tenure at Iowa?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Like, and I was still in college, but I covered Iowa in UNI when Fran's maybe second season when they got beat in the McLeod Center, probably the last time they played there.
Yeah.
And I just remember, like, Fran was so pissed off that, like, if you asked him a question, he'd either say yes or no or, like, shoot daggers at your eyes, And that seemed like, and I wasn't in every post-game press conference. I didn't go to, like, every one, especially throughout his tenure. But when I did and there was, like, a loss, it was almost like, get ready, you might get, you
Exactly.
might get a not a rude answer, but just like, come on, what are you doing, kind of thing.
You should be afraid.
Yeah, exactly. And Ben said something funny last night. He's like, this isn't the first time we got whooped, but I went and looked back. The last time that one of his teams got beat by 19 or more points.
It didn't happen to Drake, I'm assuming. Nope. Boy, with all the national champions, I can't hardly imagine it happening
sooner than you think.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. Maybe 3 years ago.
Wow, it's around the money.
All right.
February 2022, they lost at 19 to Emporia State. So who could forget that game? But
just walk into Emporia.
And their previous one was 2017, and this was an exhibition, but they played Duke and got beat by 33.
Really?
Yeah. So
and MSU, like Northwest Missouri, played Duke?
It was an exhibition game, but yeah, they did.
Still, that's sweet. Man, good for him.
But I think I can definitively say, outlook on the season, this will be the first time in 12 or 13 seasons that Ben McCollum will not win a conference championship. He's won the last 12 conference championships.
Really?
Yeah. For his team.
And I mean, I appreciate the realism there. I mean, there's still a lot of season left and a lot of Big Ten games to go, but what we saw last night against Michigan State, it doesn't look like a team that can win a Big Ten title or even compete for a Big Ten title this year based on their performance and based on what the Big Ten is this year.
And I think if that was your goal going into the season as a Hawkeye fan in the first year of a new coach, then I think your sights were a little, misguided. He even mentioned a few times, and I've heard him say this, and I almost feel like he's trying to get some benefit of the doubt. He's like, this is a process. He mentioned how only one player stuck around, like he's had to refill the cupboard, so to speak.
Yep.
Not to say that Fran left the program on terrible space, but all of his players transferred in this new age, so he is rebuilding. And not to be like a mouthpiece for the program, but I do agree with that. I think if you get around to the tournament,
Yeah.
if you can get to the tournament, it'll be a success no matter what.
Yeah, certainly. Well, we want to thank Pin Seekers for helping us tee this show off. And we've mentioned a little bit the next few games for Iowa and what the outlook is like over the next month or so we can bring up their schedule for the rest of the month of December going into January. So we have Maryland coming up, who is, turns out, not very good. You were telling me some data yesterday that this is it still a potentially quad 4 game?
It is a quad 4 game,
Okay.
at least. Let me double check that. Yeah, 171 in the net at home. That's a quad 4 game, which is insane just where Maryland was. But they did lose their coach last year. He went to Villanova. So, I think I haven't looked at the roster yet, but I think they did have to do a rehaul.
It is a little surprising just because, looking at their schedule, like, they beat Marquette, they beat UNLV, a couple other, just kind of your typical mid-major wins, and their losses are to Georgetown, who's actually been better than what we might thought they would have been, and then they got dominated by Gonzaga, and then they got beat by 32 to Alabama. So
Not horrible losses.
Right.
But
yeah,
I think it's
great losses.
the amount of points they got beat by and allowing 100 points in both of those losses to Gonzaga and Alabama, who are two of the top teams in the country even.
Yeah.
The computers don't like that. So I do think throughout the season they'll probably take a spike.
So that's Maryland. That's this coming Saturday, and then next, what is it? Thursday, I think, is a men's game.
Yeah.
The Cy-Hawk game, which Iowa State. I still just never know. I'm growing less and less confident every year when I see Iowa State do well in the early season, because it seems like under TJ Otzelberger, this team has played great in the early season, and then they just really fade once it gets late in the Big 12 season. So, boy, they look outstanding right now. They look like a top 10 team. I think they are, what are they right now, 11th in the polls?
10th.
10th, yeah. Like, that Iowa State team looks outstanding right now, and they always bring it against Iowa, so that's going to be a tough one. Then Western Michigan. Could I tell you a single thing about Western Michigan basketball? I really could not. Let's see. What that would be the MAC. What's Western Michigan's record right now? We have the Broncos. Ooh, boy, sitting at 3-5 right now in the MAC, towards the bottom of the conference.
Yeah, I don't even know if Western Michigan, Bucknell, UMass. I mean, you can just chalk them up as wins.
You
If
should.
not, then we'll probably,
One interesting little connection we have here in the schedule. Do you remember the bracket buster games? This was a maybe short-lived, maybe 6 or 7 year phenomenon where, like, in February, a bunch of the the mid majors would, like, get together and, like, play each other, like, just to kind of get a resume boosting win late in the year. I think maybe 2 years in a row, University of Northern Iowa played Western Michigan and Bucknell. Weirdly enough. Okay, that's all I have on that matter. Then they have UMass Lowell, and then getting back into Big Ten play in January with UCLA, another Big Ten team that looks great.
Yeah, and they actually, I think they were rated higher than they are right now. Haven't they taken some losses? But going back to Iowa State, while you
UCLA,
look,
yeah, they have. I mean, they started the season as a top 15 team. They lost to Arizona by 4, which, like, is a pretty quality loss. Then they lost to Cal, which is not a quality loss. So
that's true.
Yeah, Mick Cronin is not having a good time out there.
Touching on Iowa State before we move on, we'll probably do we'll do a podcast next week, either previewing and discussing the Cy-Hawk matchups next week. But I almost think that that's a little too harsh for the Cyclones, because they play in a very tough conference. And
Sure.
you mentioned you think Big Ten's the toughest. I'd almost say 1A, 1B, Big 12, because they have so many like-minded contenders. And I think you have to consider the fact that the Big Ten hasn't won a title since 2000 with Michigan State.
Wow, really?
Yeah. I mean, the Big 12, I think Kansas won it a few years ago. And Houston was just on the doorstep last year. Mm-hmm. But Houston, despite not a rough start, but a bumpy start to the season this year, mm-hmm. they have Arizona, Houston. Iowa State looks amazing this year. Mm-hmm. I think playing in that that conference, maybe that's why they take a few more losses. Now,
yeah,
they did get bounced before
they lost in the second round to Ole Miss last year. Yeah,
yeah, true. So.
And that's the main thing for me, is that, like, they just have not played great. And, when we get to February in the Big 12 tournament and the NCAA tournament, like, this seems like every year it should be a Sweet 16, if not Elite 8 team, and they just really kind of fade late in the season.
That's fair. Although I think they won the Big 12 2 or 3 seasons ago. So the tournament, not the conference. But
yeah, that's fair.
It's still going to be a tough game in Hilton Coliseum.
Right next door. And then, those next 3 games, I was just looking at the records. None of those 3 non-conference games, Western Michigan, Bucknell, and UMass Lowell, all have losing records right now. So those, you could almost definitely chalk up to be automatic wins for the Hawkeyes. Should be, at least. We might have said that about Eastern Illinois a couple of years ago, and look how that turned.
That's true. The Iowa should be, I think, 11-2 is the record heading into their second stint of Big Ten play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's pretty good. And then you're looking at aiming for 10-10 in conference. To get that 21-10, then you should be solidly in, I think. Yeah,
10 wins in the Big Ten seems like that's an impressive number of wins against, considering the teams that are in there. Let's transition out from the men's game and let's go to the women's team. They have been banged up recently, and yet still they might go into next week's Cy-Hawk game with both unbeaten records between them and Iowa State. They're coming off a win over the weekend against Fairfield, a really solid mid-major team that was receiving votes in the latest polls. Excuse me. The injuries have been a big factor, but have you been impressed with this team in spite of the injuries, what they've been able to do to keep winning games? With Rodriguez was out this last game. Chit-Chat Wright has been, has she missed, 3-4 games at this point?
Ever since she got hurt in the Baylor game, so it was
Miami she missed.
Miami, and then I can't remember what cupcakes they played, but yeah, she's missed 2 or 3 games.
Right.
It sounded like when Jan said was talking after the game Sunday that Chit-Chat, she said day to day. She said she thought she'd play on Sunday, so having a full business week off, or school week, or however you want to say it, Monday through Friday off. That sounds like she'll play Saturday, but you don't know. She had that upper body injury. Emily Rodriguez is a back, and then Tegan Mulaney was out with tonsils.
Oh, really?
It says, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, they look pretty good. And, I thought against Fairfield, I incorrectly on Saturday when we were doing a football podcast said it was a tune-up game. I didn't realize Fairfield was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But when I was watching the game, I was super impressed with Taylor Stremlow, the way she came in for chit chat and just kind of as a true sophomore was like, she looks like she's elevated her game so much since last year. Mm-hmm. And Taylor McGabe had a good game. Kylie Feuerbach had 17 points, and Ava Hayden, I kind of like when I looked at the box score after the game, I was like, whoa, she had 18 and I think 10 or 14
against Fairfield. She had 16 rebounds.
16, okay.
Yeah.
And 18 points.
Yep.
18 and 16, and it was kind of like a quiet. So
yeah.
She has been playing amazing, and I feel like Layla Hayes only played a few minutes in the first half, if at all, because Hayden was so effective. Mm-hmm. And but she's played pretty well too. So I do like this team. I still don't know how good they are. I think Baylor might have been a little overrated. That's your best win because they beat a Duke team that was ranked and then they dropped out of the rankings. So, how good is this team? I think it's a really interesting matchup next week when the two bigs face off against Audie Crooks, also in Hilton Coliseum.
Yep. And that's been a matchup that has worked well for Iowa in Audie's first 2 years
without
at Iowa.
the bigs, yeah.
Right, like they've really done well against her. It seems like Jan Jensen just knows how to game plan well against Audie. Like 2 years ago, Sharon Goodman totally shut Audie down. And last year, the Iowa's post really played well against her. And this year, I mean, you have an even better post group. You have Hannah Stolke, who was teammates with Audie Crooks for the what was that tournament called? The AmeriCup, FIBA AmeriCup, where they played down in Argentina. And were won a gold medal together. Those two players know each other well. I think they're good friends, but gosh, yeah, we'll get more to this in our preview podcast for the games next week. But I do really like Iowa's post going up against Audie Crooks. Seems like that's going to be her first true test. Audie's been dominating everybody so far, 2 40-plus point games so far this season, but she has not factored in Hannah Stolke and Ava Hayden so far. Audie's not like traditionally a big rebounder, and so having Ava Hayden wrangle in it with rebounds as well as she has so far could be a big factor in that game.
100%. And the transfer Jada Williams, though, I haven't been able to watch Iowa State, but everything I hear about her, she's averaging almost 7 assists a game.
Okay.
And so it feels like they've got the edge on the backcourt, a little bit, just with that experience and that high level of play that she's bringing. So we'll see, I guess. But back to Fairfield.
Yeah.
Iowa suffered, I was listening to the broadcast, their largest deficit of the season in the first quarter.
Wow.
They were down 22-11 midway through the first quarter because Fairfield shoots it, out of the gym sometimes. They were shooting like 55% from 3 at that point. But then Iowa got to like a 7-0 run, kind of closed the gap, and then they took the lead, I think, midway through the second quarter and just didn't look back. Although Fairfield did make a run late, they got it within 8 with about 5 minutes left in the game. At that point in the game, though, Kylie Feuerbach hits back-to-back threes with, she was 4 for 7 overall, but there was like 5 minutes left. So crucial time to hit some big shots.
Mm-hmm. And after the game, I mean, that was, what was it, a 86-72. So it ended up being a 14-point win, kind of spread it out towards the end, maybe not indicative of the actual closeness of a lot of that game. But we did get a chance to hear from Jan Jensen, what she had to say after that win over the Stags.
They do what they do really, really well, right? The Creighton does a lot of that stuff, and Drakes do that kind of thing. So in our region, you're aware of it, but when you get that hopping and you got shooters, it's really difficult to guard. I did not plan on being down, the people that were down. I was really hopeful Chit Chat was going to be back because I knew how difficult this game was to guard. So I think beating this team is it's a good win. And to do it without Chit Chat, arguably our most efficient player right now, or has been on both sides of the ball, and she's turned into our team leader out there and that captain, that was really a really great win because that team is a really good team.
You guys fall behind 22-10 against a team like Fairfield with that firepower. It can feel a little unsettling just because of what they can do offensively. What did you feel like turned? It was late in the first quarter. I think you guys ended on like a 7-0 run and then tied it in the second quarter, and obviously went from there. Just what do you feel like turned in that late first quarter?
Yeah, I just felt like the shots we had missed were not going to continue to be missed. And I felt like we had the counter on the inside. And I do feel like our defense is pretty good. And you had to ride the waves. I watched film. Like, I watched their South Florida game, and they came out and scorched 25 points in the first quarter. The second quarter, I mean, they won the game, but the law of averages. Like, if they were going to hit just like the first and the fourth quarter, man, I mean, hats off, right? But I just felt like eventually they were going to cool down, and we were going to be able to get some of that inside action.
4 players in double figures. Beg your pardon. 4 players in double figures for the Hawkeyes against Fairfield, and then you had both Taylor Strimlow and Addie Deal with 9 points. Just it feels like that could have been a very different game if you were fully stocked. They basically went 7 players deep in that game. You had your starters, and then Addie and Journey Houston played a decent amount, but just overall very understaffed when you're missing Chit Chat Wright and Emily Rodriguez and Tegan Mulaney. Do you have an indication for how much time Emily might miss, or is it going to be a short-term thing, a one-off game?
I do not know.
Yeah.
It sounds like Chit Chat is close. She said Tegan Mulaney's close. Didn't say that for Rodriguez, but I don't know how long she's expected to be back.
Yeah. And with this team being so young, you do like having that experience out there from a player like Rodriguez and Chit Chat especially, and Mulaney, who played last year. Like, this team is still growing together. How do you feel overall about what you've seen out of Addie Deal the last couple of games? She started a little bit slow, didn't see a whole lot of her in the first few games, but had 17 against Western Illinois, 9 points against Fairfield. Are you starting to get more impressed with what she's bringing to the table?
What's the deal? No, I do. I thought last game against Fairfield, she started to kind of play a little better. Mm-hmm. She had a couple of steals. One of them I don't think was recorded as a steal because it was either a foul called or on the other team, or the ball got knocked out of bounds or whatever.
Credited with 3, it looks like, in the box score.
Okay, 3. There you go. I didn't look at that. She looked a little more comfortable. I still think there's sometimes when she's dribbling where it doesn't seem like, I thought she'd have better handles than she actually does. At least now, but I do think she's kind of getting more comfortable. She's still is deadly from 3. So if you can set that up, but I don't think you have to rely on her for bringing the ball up, though. I really like what I've seen from Taylor Stremmel, like I said earlier. And another player that I was impressed with was Journey Houston.
Okay.
Yeah, she was playing the 4 a lot, kind of with
playing the 4, interesting.
Yeah, it seemed, at least to me, I might be wrong on this, but it seemed like it was her and Ava and 3 other smaller players. But she had some post moves, and what did she have? 20 minutes on the game.
Actually, she played more than Hannah Stolke against Fairfield. Yeah. She had 20 minutes 11 seconds.
Hannah did get in foul trouble in the first half. I think she had, how many fouls did she have? I think she had 3 in the first half. Yeah. So that might have had something to do with it. But she looks pretty darn good coming in.
Yeah, and that was a player that maybe we didn't anticipate seeing right away. I mean, I think everybody knew, like, all right, this is a nice little recruit pickup. We'll maybe see her in another year or two. But, she's been solid so far. I think what we saw out of her in the scrimmages that were open to the media and out of the game so far, I mean, once this team is fully healthy again, maybe we're not going to see nearly as much of Journey as we did against Fairfield. But, when this team is in a pinch and they're down a couple players due to injury, she's a serviceable, 3-4 hybrid type of player. So what we got coming up here for the women's basketball team? We've got Rutgers, their Big Ten opener, coming up on Saturday, and then the Cy-Hawk game next week. What's Rutgers looking like? Let me bring up the standings for.
And then in 2 weeks, they play number 1 UConn in Brooklyn, New York. So that
could be a tough one.
Is going to be a tough one, no matter who you are.
Yeah. It's very different than when they were playing each other in the Final Four a couple years ago. So Rutgers right now 7-2 overall. Then we have Iowa State, who speaks for themselves. That's going to be probably a top 15 matchup. I don't think Iowa could make a big enough jump to make it a top 10 matchup, but nevertheless a ranked matchup between the Cyclones and Hawkeyes. Then a few days after that is Lindenwood. Then, as Mike said, number 1 UConn coming on the 20th of this month. Then they get back into Big Ten play with Penn State and then Nebraska on New Year's Day. Do they have kind of a thing with Nebraska on New Year's? I feel like this has been maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like I've seen this the last couple of years where they play each other around the New Year.
They might. I'm not exactly sure.
That schedule just looked familiar to me. One thing I was curious about when I saw the lower third come up with them being ranked number 12 right now, I kind of forget that Iowa's the number 12 ranked team in the country right now. Do you feel like this is the 12th best team in America?
I kind of alluded to it, but I kind of feel like they might be a little overrated at this point. Not to, discredit them in any way, but I think that Baylor win really vaulted them up because they were ranked in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
And, man, I guess we'll find out this month, but could they be a top 12 team by the end of the year? They might. This is I think the broadcast said this is the youngest team in like 12 years that Iowa's had.
I remember Jan said that in the preseason, yeah.
And we're talking about Addie Deal and Journey Houston and Layla Hayes and even all the sophomores. Like those are still very young players, and they can play good for 1 or 2 games, but can they do it consistently over the Big Ten schedule? That's yet to be determined, really. I mean, I know Ava had a really good Big Ten, schedule and into the tournament, but sometimes it's a slog, and we'll have to see if those younger players can contribute in and out, from day one. And then how long is this chit-chat injury?
Mm-hmm.
Jan's repeatedly said that she's one of, if not the most efficient player on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And when we saw that, we were talking about it last time we were doing a basketball podcast, is I thought she was, the front runner of the best player on the team right now. And if she misses even next week into Iowa State game, which I think she should be back by then it's going to be a whole different ball game.
Yeah, I have to think that they are going to really play it cautious with Rutgers coming up. Rutgers right now, they're 7-2.
134 in the net.
Lost to Stony Brook and Auburn. They got smacked by Stony Brook. No real quality wins. What'd you say what's their?
134 in the net.
Okay. I really got to think that they're probably going to, unless Chit Chat is totally 100%, I think they're probably going to hold her back for that game. Emily Rodriguez, same thing. Why risk it when you have the Cy-Hawk game coming up next week?
The other option on that, though, or the other argument for that is rust versus rest. That'd be 2 weeks off for at least Chit Chat and a full week and a half for Emily Rodriguez. Do you want them going in cold kind of to that Iowa State game?
Yeah.
Maybe limited minutes, though.
Yeah. Lindenwood actually maybe a slightly more quality opponent than I was giving them credit for. They're 7-2 right now, coming off a win over Drake the other night. Actually, they beat Hawaii, Vermont. They lost to Baylor by 16, so kept it somewhat competitive with them. Beat Omaha, Oral Roberts. So that's a quality opponent they're going to get at Carver Hawkeye Arena in another couple weeks or so. I don't know. I just have a hard time seeing this team right now as if you're ranked number 12, that means you're a Sweet 16 team, basically, losing in the Sweet 16.
That would mean, and, blanket on the ESPN guy, Charlie Cream, had looked at his bracketology, and I know it's December, the first week of December, so, take it for a grain of salt, but, they are projected to be a 4 seed in host games with Notre Dame, at least at this point, with their resume.
Yeah.
Now, that would be quite the accomplishment, I think, in year 2 of Jan Jensen, and with such a young team, that I'd be super impressed if they could actually achieve that.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Maybe we're not crediting them enough for their 8-0 start.
Right.
But I do think when you take a step back and you're trying to just look at, this team through an unbiased eye, I'm like, maybe they deserve that, but we'll have to see. I think the fair thing to do is they've got 2 games against top 10 teams coming up. Let's see where they're at.
Yeah. I think they got some early preseason credit ranking-wise just based on name recognition and what they've done the last few years. I think people are really starting to respect the Hawkeyes as a team that always can at least start the year in the top 25, and getting a couple of Power 5 wins against Baylor and Miami has helped vault them up there pretty high. But yeah, gosh, with the amount of inexperience on this team, I'm just number 12, that just seems really optimistic right now. So and again, maybe I'm being too hard on them too. Maybe they're going to come out and they could beat. I say that I have no doubt that they could beat Iowa State, who's number 10 at this
100%.
point. So, I say that.
I think that one's like a 50-50 toss-up to me.
Right.
On the road, I might give it to the home team a little more. Mm-hmm. But that'd be a heck of a win this early in the season. And if you could make it out of non-conference, I'm just assuming they're going to lose to UConn because they're stacked. With 1 loss, that would be amazing start, right?
Phenomenal.
You'd set yourself up really well heading into Big Ten, which is always tough.
Right, exactly. Yeah, Big Ten on the women's side always solid. Even though we don't have Juju Watkins playing for USC this season, still Big Ten is a force to be reckoned with on the women's side as well. We will be back with another episode of Eye on the Hawks coming next week, where we preview the Cy-Hawk games with potentially an unbeaten matchup between Iowa and Iowa State, and high caliber matchup between the Iowa and Iowa State men's teams as well. That's going to be a good one. Make sure you follow Eye on the Hawks on YouTube. Once we get a little bit more in the season, we'll have some more highlights to actually show you, but we're always good watch on YouTube, and you can follow us wherever you do find your podcast. So for Erica and Mike, I'm Owen Sebring, and we'll see you again next time on Eye on the Hawks.
At DePaco Credit Union, we value your health and happiness as much as your financial well-being. We encourage the volunteer spirit by providing DePaco employees with the tools and resources to help grow our communities and support the causes that matter to us. We believe that giving back not only strengthens the places we call home, but also enhances our overall well-being. Well-being is the key to a life worth loving. So when you think about yours, remember that DePaco can help you be well.